You just got your pick order and you found out you were at either pick 6 or 7. This sounds like a nightmare, but don't worry, pick 6 and 7 are the best spots for getting value in 2026 fantasy football drafts. In the middle, you can capitalize on falling players, and you never have to wait too long for your next pick, which means you don't get screwed by runs at a position, as you can always draft soon. Pick 6 and 7 are still very easy to mess up on, so you guys need a fantasy football expert, and I'm here to deliver. I've identified 2 guys at this spot who are perfect to build around. First, if you have the 6th overall pick, I'd recommend taking Christian McCaffrey. You guys obviously know CMC, but you may not have realized he finished as the number 1 overall running back last season. I find his injury issues a bit overblown because even though he has missed out on whole seasons before, 3 of the last 4 years, he's played the entire season. In his career, he's been fully healthy 2/3 of the time, and that means you have an over 50% chance of getting a true league winner whenever you draft him. You're getting someone the same value as those top 2 guys, Bijan or Gibbs, but you're getting him in the very middle of round 1. Running back is king this year, and picking CMC at the 106 starts off your team great. If you have the 7th overall pick, it's less likely that you'll be able to get CMC, but another guy who I really like is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Funnily enough, I want the riskiest player at pick 6, which is CMC, but at pick 7, I'm taking Amon-Ra St. Brown every single time. Now, I say funnily enough because Amon-Ra St. Brown is easily the most consistent player out of all fantasy football. The last 3 years, he's finished as a top 5 receiver. He's only missed 1 game in his 5-year career. In my projections, I have him finishing as the 2nd highest wide receiver. I see him being right up there with the main guys like Puka, JSN, and Jamar Chase, who go a few picks sooner. And I think you're getting him at a great price point because he should be able to compete with those guys. So he's very safe and a great value. So that was our round 1 strategy. Start off with either CMC or Amon-Ra St. Brown, assuming you're not going to be able to get any of the top 5 guys. The thing about round 1 is it's the easiest pick to make. Anywhere past that, there's a lot of variability between what your silly league mates could do or any chaos that could happen. This real strategy starts in round 2 through round 5, which we're going to get into right now. Round 2, there's a pretty solid range of guys who I really like for this pick spot, as I'm usually looking to go running back here. So at running back here, we can get a fall from Saquon or Hampton. That would be really good. But more likely, we're going to end up looking at a Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, or a Derrick Henry. Omarion Hampton, he's coming into his 2nd NFL season. He got injured last year, but he was able to come back late in the season. But when he came back later, he went right back to being one of those elite guys. The biggest change to the Chargers this year is their offensive line, because last year they were the worst one in the entire NFL because they kept getting injured. And I had so many Chargers players, so I truly felt the pain. But this year, they're all healthy again and should be doing a lot better, especially for a running back. And another thing I love that's improved about this offense is they went in and brought in Mike McDaniel as the new offensive coordinator. He was the head coach on the Dolphins. Even if you go back, their old running backs before Devon Achane were always good with Mike McDaniel. If you can grab him here, he's a great value at this price point. Next running back we're going to be going a little more in depth on is Chase Brown. Now, you might have remembered his slow start to the season last year, with the Bengals always not being good at the beginning of the year. And then Joe Burrow got hurt. In the later half of Joe Flacco being on the Bengals and in Joe Burrow's return, he went right back up to being one of those elite running back ones. He was doing even better than Jonathan Taylor, who gets drafted ahead of him. Now, since they have Joe Flacco behind Joe Burrow, I think he's a very safe pick because they have that insurance in case Joe Burrow were to go down again. The third guy who we're most likely to get is Kenneth Walker. I'm going to keep it pretty brief here because we've gone pretty in-depth on him on the last 2 videos. In short story short, he's got great upside in his new offense, and I could see big things coming out of him in Kansas City. The only other running back I look at in this position is Derrick Henry. While I don't love him this year and I don't think he has the same ceiling as those other guys we talked about, he is projected by Vegas to be the leading rusher of the whole NFL this year. They know more than me, they know more than you, and you don't bet against Vegas. So he's a solid pick here. Round 3 is really dependent on who you were able to draft in the first 2 rounds. If you have 2 running backs at this point, you're definitely going to want to go with a wide receiver here in round 3. There's a lot of good ones. But if you went with Amon-Ra and a running back, you're probably going to want to go running back again, and I have the perfect guy for you. So first we're going to go if you need a receiver, where I really like Chris Olave in this position. You probably didn't even realize this, but he finished as the 6th highest wide receiver on the season last year. Chris Olave with Tyler Shug, elite wide receiver 1, and he has some injury risk, but he stayed healthy the whole year last year, so he can easily stay healthy again. There's some other receivers in this range if you can't get Olave, like Ted McMillan or T. Higgins, that I like, and we won't go as in-depth to them, but they would be my backup options. Now, my running back guy who I'm in love with, he's the best position to succeed, great value. He's not in that exact top tier, but I really like him, Kyren Williams. I remember when Kyren Williams had his breakout year, picking him up off the waiver wire. And this is the year I'm finally back all in on the Kyren Williams train. He hasn't finished outside the top 12 running backs ever since he broke out 3 years ago, so I don't see that changing anytime soon. People are concerned with Blake Corum, but Blake Corum's not going to steal the job. He might come in at the end of the games when the Rams are winning by so much, but Kyren's still the main guy here. Let's not freak out, guys. Pro Walker Insider tip: Kyren has the best schedule of all running backs in fantasy football, so you're not only drafting him to be great prospect like he's been in the last years, but you're also drafting him in ahead of he'll be able to have a lot of matchups where he can really utilize them and score really highly. He should be available in this spot, and this is right about where he's going drafted on most platforms. But if you couldn't get him, you could always look at Breece Hall, who doesn't have as high as the ceiling, but still pretty solid. Or you could look at Javonte Williams and reach on him a little bit. And it's just up to personal preference. 4th round, this one's pretty clear, guys. You're going to want to be going wide receiver, so hopefully you have 2 running backs at this point. Here you can get an elite wide receiver who's the best guy on his team, no questions asked. I'm talking about Devonta Smith, of course. He's great. He's a slot guy, so pretty safe in this offense now that he's the main guy. I don't be surprised if Devonta Smith finishes as a top 8 wide receiver this year. And if he does, that means you're getting him at a great value here. At this point in the draft, he would be our wide receiver 2, and he's definitely one of the better wide receiver 2s you could have for a fantasy team. Now, the other guy who I really like in this range for receivers is Zay Flowers. He really shined towards the end of last season. I had never been really high on him before, just because he seemed like one of those low-ceiling, mediocre players. But they've got Lamar back this year, and he's always going to have that solid floor like I talked about. While I don't see him having the same ceiling as Devonta Smith, he's another great guy you could get here. Now, my third guy we're going to be talking about is Jalen Waddle. Now, Jalen Waddle, they traded him in the offseason from the Dolphins to the Broncos, and I think that's going to help him out a lot, as the Dolphins, they're not very good at passing the ball, unless it's to Devon Achane, and we knew that last year. But Jalen Waddle, he's the new main guy on Denver. I definitely see Jalen Waddle taking over that area of receivers in Denver and being the main guy there, and I'm not too worried about his competition. But any of those 3 receivers would be pretty good value at this pick. Round 5, pretty clear in our strategy. We're going to be wanting to grab our 3rd running back. I like David Montgomery here at this position, as he's the new RB1 in Houston, but I've already talked about him so much in the recent videos, like Kenneth Walker. So we're going to kind of just go over him really quick like that. I also like Bashal Tutin at this point. He was Travis Etienne's backup in Jacksonville last year, so he didn't have too much games where he could really show off his abilities. But Travis Etienne, he's out of here. So Bashal Tutin, he has some slight competition with Chris Rodriguez from the Commanders. But do we really think this new guy to the offense, Chris Rodriguez, is going to win the job? No. And I think Bashal Tutin, he has the potential to go up with those guys getting drafted in the 3rd round, which makes him a good value here, especially since if you're drafting a running back here, he's not going to be one of your starting 2 every week, and more likely a flex play based on matchup. Liam Cohen should be able to help him succeed in Jacksonville as the main guy this year. But if for some reason Monty or Bashal Tutin, aren't available here, I also like DeAndre Swift or Travion Henderson here. That's all for the main strategy. You want 3 running backs through the first 5 rounds and 2 running backs through the first 3 rounds. Now we can run through 2 mock drafts, one from the 106, one from the 107, to show you how good this position is and how easy it is to execute this strategy and to take it and dominate your draft. I manually selected the picks before mine, so we'll be in the most realistic position in this draft. But obviously, if one of those guys before fell to you, you'd want to take them instead of CMC or Amon-Ra. But at pick 6, we're going to start with CMC. Like I said, round 1's the easiest to predict what's going to happen. This is the one you can plan for the best. Round 2, we got pretty lucky here. We got Chase Brown at pick 19. This is a good value. If he wasn't available, I probably would have looked towards Kenneth Walker. Strategy-wise, since we just took our second running back and have no receivers, we're going to be wanting to really make sure we get one in the next round or we'll fall behind. So in the third, we used that knowledge and we added Chris Olave to the team. Keeping it brief again, great upside with how he finished last year, and in this spot, we were definitely needing a receiver. And then when the pick came back to us in the 4th round, we took Devonta Smith from the Eagles to get our second receiver to pretty much equal up the receivers and running backs again. Round 5, like I said, running back round, really good. We got Monty to finish off the strategy. 5 rounds through the draft, we got 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and so we were able to check off our strategy completely. And then from here on, from the draft, see what you can get later on. We got Jalen Hurts, a quarterback I really like. Ramondre Stevenson, he's still the RB1 for now in New England. Then we got some more receivers like Jacoby Myers. You'll learn as the season goes on, I call him the Jacobster. That's just a me thing. Maybe it'll catch on. Maybe you'll see all the big YouTubers calling him the Jacobster. But for now, just me. But he's the Jacobster. We got the big Q. And then we just filled out our team with some upside at the end. Mock draft number 2, we had the 7th pick. So I started with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Easy top 5 receiver by the end of the season. As we've seen him do that before, he'll do it again. Locked it in. So we already got a consistent 18 to 20 points from Amon-Ra in our starting lineup each week. In round 2, we got Hampton at a good value. This is why I like the 107 a little bit more than the 106, because at the 107, you're going to have some of those elite options still available at the turn, and you'll be able to start with Amon-Ra, get your receiver locked in, and then get a great running back in the round 2. Going into round 3, we only had 1 running back, so we easily took Kyron Williams here. Great schedule, great running back, Super Bowl winning team. This season, that's my pick. Round 4, we had to even out our receiver and running back room, and we went with Devonta Smith, like I said. Another great guy. Wide receiver 2. Can't really ask for much more in a wide receiver 2. Round 5, we got our third, more upside of a flex running back with Bashal Tutin. Looking back on this mock draft as a whole, I really like how it went so far, and I would be happy with this as my core of guys on my personal fantasy football team. Later on in the draft, we got mostly upside. We also took some more stable positions who could compete for a flex spot. As you can see, this strategy works great and is so easy to replicate in your own leagues. I hope I could help you win some this year. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Last time the goal was +1 subscribers, and you guys have knocked it out of the park lately, so we're going for +2 subscribers this time. I hope you could learn something new, and I hope to see you again soon. Walker Country, let's ride! Peace!